In any great TV crime series, it's rarely the character solving the crimes that we're most interested in. The arch-criminal is the one who usually draws our attention, particularly if they're a complex and well-crafted villain or anti-hero. In fact, many of TV's most celebrated characters are criminals, whether they are mobsters, Machiavels, violent malcontents, or corrupt members of the establishment. Most of the best crime dramas on television wouldn't be what they are without a compelling criminal character at the heart of them. What's more, if they are sympathetically drawn, before we know it we'll actually find ourselves rooting for this TV criminal. After all, everyone loves an underdog story, and there's often no greater underdog than someone attempting to evade the long tentacles of the law. We might not agree with the transgressive acts being committed by these criminals, or the way they're committing them, yet, in many cases, we can't help but sympathize with their motives, or marvel at their ingenuity. Those on the wrong side of law and order are frequently the most interesting characters in a TV series, too. Because they are untrustworthy and morally questionable, they tend to generate exciting plot twists and explosive conflicts during the course of a story. This rule of thumb isn't just true for the best gangster shows, but also detective series and even comedies. Nancy Botwin. Weeds. Nancy Botwin sitting in a car drinking from a straw in Weeds. Middle-class mother of two Nancy Botwin is far from your typical drug dealer, and she regularly makes a hash of plying this illicit trade, pun intended, with darkly hilarious consequences. Nancy's at her best during the first 3 seasons of Weeds, after which the show loses its way. But she's still a terrific character overall, who showed Walter White how it's done. Jim Moriarty. Sherlock. Andrew Scott as Moriarty in Sherlock. Several years before Andrew Scott became most recognizable for his role as Fleabag's hot priest, he was Sherlock's best villain. The conniving mastermind behind countless plots throughout the series, Jim Moriarty is the principal nemesis of Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock Holmes, whose mind is the only one sharp enough to match the legendary detective and evade police custody. George Bluth Sr. Arrested Development. George Bluth Sr. talks to Michael while in jail in Arrested Development. The absurdly corrupt patriarch of the Bluth family in Arrested Development spends much of the show's incomparably brilliant initial seasons in jail. Funnily enough, he actually enjoys being there, away from the intolerable demands of his wife and kids. Still, the sheer stupidity of George's harebrained attempts at fraud reveal him to be just as incompetent as his family. Clay Morrow. Sons of Anarchy. Sons of Anarchy. Ron Perlman as Clay Morrow. The leader of the Samcro criminal biker gang from 1993, Clay Morrow gets much of his authority from being one of the first 9 members of the club. But he gets the rest of it from the ruthless streak that means no one dares to cross him, until he's finally killed off Sons of Anarchy Season 6. Ruth Langmore. Ozark. Ruth Langmore at Wendy's office on Ozark. Ruth Langmore's death is Ozark's most controversial for a reason. Julia Garner's character is the show's standout fan favorite, thanks to her fearsome resilience, her growth as a person during the course of the show, and the sympathy her backstory engenders. Despite her sharp tongue, Ruth has a good heart, which makes what happens to her even more tragic. Sideshow Bob. The Simpsons. Sideshow Bob pointing a machete at Bart on a houseboat in The Simpsons. The evil genius at the center of some of The Simpsons' greatest episodes, Sideshow Bob was originally written for actor James Earl Jones to voice. When Kelsey Grammer got the part instead, he helped turn Bob into TV's most highbrow violent criminal. His blowout haircut and Bart Simpson obsession also make him one of the screen's most idiosyncratic villains. Nina Myers. 24. Sarah Clark as Nina Myers in 24. There are no shortage of character betrayals in 24, but surely the most shocking is the revelation that Nina Myers, Jack Bauer's colleague in the U.S. counterterrorism unit in Los Angeles, is actually a terrorist involved in a plot to assassinate a presidential candidate. Actor Sarah Clark played her CTU role so well, we never saw it coming. Raymond "Red" Reddington. The Blacklist. James Spader as Raymond Reddington in The Blacklist looking thoughtful. In terms of betrayals, few TV characters know them more intimately than KGB informer-turned-FBI informant Raymond Reddington. The Blacklist never reveals Reddington's true identity per se, which makes his characterization as a criminal mastermind nobody can really trust even more captivating. James Spader gives a masterclass in playing an ingeniously slippery customer who's impossible to pin down. Alice Morgan. Luther. Alice Morgan, Ruth Wilson, on Luther. Another of the small screen's most brilliant criminal insiders features in arguably Idris Elba's best TV show as lead actor. Alice Morgan is a stone-cold killer whom Elba's Luther has every reason to suspect, but who has the unerring ability to commit perfect crimes. The relationship they soon forge is symptomatic of her dangerously irresistible charisma as a character. Enoch "Nucky" Thompson. Boardwalk Empire. Nucky, Steve Buscemi, smiling at a party in Boardwalk Empire. Anchoring Martin Scorsese's underrated HBO show Boardwalk Empire is no mean feat, but Nucky Thompson is no ordinary local government treasurer. Steve Buscemi's greatest character is involved in virtually every act of organized crime in Atlantic City during the Prohibition era, and knows how to run a crime racket better than Lucky Luciano or Al Capone. Derek Del Boy Trotter. Only Fools and Horses. Del Boy in Only Fools and Horses. Besides Only Fools and Horses giving us Frasier's Nicholas Lyndhurst, the classic British sitcom produced perhaps the most lovable criminal in TV history. Del Boy Trotter's penchant for stolen goods, ill-conceived deals, and misguided attempts at the French language are impossible not to fall for. It's telling that the whole of Britain celebrated Del Boy finally making his million. Ul Swearingen. Deadwood. Ul Swearingen looking menacing in Deadwood. Just one of many real-life historical figures in Deadwood, saloon and brothel proprietor Ul Swearingen is a criminal Seth Bullock knows he has to compromise with if he's to get anywhere as a U.S. Marshal in the Western show's titular gold mining town. Despite Swearingen's devilish deeds, Ian McShane's mesmerizing performance makes him the most watchable character in the series.